A while back, I told you that Palestine and Israel had considered applying to be part of the British Commonwealth. Well, there's a whole lot more to it that I wanted to share with you in this message today. Ironically, this article was in the Jerusalem Post in 2018 by Neville Teller, and it says, "The Commonwealth. Is there a place for Israel?" Now, one of the reasons why it came to me about King Charles III likely being a peace broker between the two is because the Israeli parliamentary system was based on the British rule when the British ruled Palestine up until the time Israel became a state. So technically they very much could become part of the Commonwealth, but there's a lot more to the story than I'm finding, and the Commonwealth is the title of this. Is there a place for Israel? What is the relationship between Britain and Israel? An event that received scant attention in the world's media was Queen Elizabeth II's opening of the biennial Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London on April 16th of 2018. Inadequate global coverage has been the fate of the Commonwealth for many years. The Commonwealth is a facet of contemporary life that most people know or care little about. The Commonwealth Games, interposed every 4 years between the Olympics, might arouse a flicker of interest. In fact, the 21st Games kicked off in Australia that year on April 4th. But as for the background or purpose of the organization itself, there's little general knowledge or concern, and yet the Commonwealth has the potential to exert an enormous power for good on global politics. When Elizabeth came to the throne in 1952, the Commonwealth consisted of just 7 nations. Today, it's a voluntary association of 53 independent sovereign states with a combined population of some 2.4 billion people, almost a third of the world's inhabitants. Most, but not all, of the member states were once part of the now defunct British Empire, which explains why the Queen was head of the organization. But what unites this diverse group of nations beyond the ties of history, language, and institutions are strong trade links and the association's 16 core values set out in the Commonwealth Charter. These Commonwealth values commit the organization to promoting world peace, democracy, individual liberty, environmental sustainability, equality in terms of race and gender, free trade, and the fight against poverty, ignorance, and disease. In short, the Commonwealth stands for all that's good in this wicked world. It was in 1884 that Lord Rosebery, later a British Prime Minister, first dubbed the British Empire a Commonwealth of Nations, and the designation British Commonwealth remained uncontroversial until 1947, when India achieved independence. Although the new state became a republic, the Indian government was very keen to remain in the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth, unwilling to lose the jewel in its crown, found no difficulty in changing the rules of the club. Henceforth, British was to be dropped from the title of the organization, and membership did not have to be based on allegiance to the British crown. Members were to be free and equal members of the Commonwealth of Nations, freely cooperating in the pursuit of peace, liberty, and progress. Since then, fully independent countries from all parts of the globe have flocked to join the Commonwealth. At first, all were required to have some historic connection to the old British Empire, until 2 nations with absolutely no such ties applied to join. Once again, the Commonwealth demonstrated a flexibility remarkable in bureaucracies, and by sleight of hand further amended the rules to allow first Mozambique and a few years later Rwanda to join. Applications and expressions of interest in joining the Commonwealth continue to arrive from a wide diversity of states. Back in 2012, the House of Commons Foreign Affairs Select Committee considered the role and future of the Commonwealth and in general welcomed the idea of the organization extending its membership, always provided a stringent selection procedure was maintained. We welcome the fact that the Commonwealth continues to attract interest from potential new members, reads the final paragraph of their report, and see advantages in greater diversity and extended global reach for the Commonwealth. However, it is critical or crucial that the application process is rigorous and that any new members are appropriate additions to the Commonwealth family, closely adhering at all times to its principles and values. Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority, or a sovereign Palestine, if or when this comes to pass, would, if they applied to join the Commonwealth, certainly meet the original criterion of historic ties with the British Empire. In point of fact, both the Palestinians and Israel have in the past toyed with this possibility. In February of 1997, the UK's independent newspaper carried a story under the headline, "Palestine Looks at Membership of the Commonwealth." It reported that the representative of the Palestine Liberation Organization to Britain, Afif Salah, had suggested that the PLO might seek associate membership of the Commonwealth as a temporary measure, while awaiting the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state. Once the Palestinians achieved self-determination, ran the story, the Commonwealth Secretary General IBCA Anyauku sees no obstacle to Palestine becoming the 54th member of the organization. 10 years later, in December of 2007, the Jewish Journal reported, as a former British colony, Israel is being considered for Commonwealth membership. Commonwealth officials said that week that they had set up a special committee to consider membership applications by several Middle Eastern and African nations. Those interested in applying include Israel and the Palestinian Authority, both of which exist on land ruled by a British mandate from 1918 to 1948. An Israeli official did not deny the report, but said this issue is not on our agenda right now. So that was in 2018. The idea of full membership still seems politically unrealistic, but the prospect of forging some sort of link between Israel and the Commonwealth family of nations has recently gained some substance. The Royal Commonwealth Society, the RCS, is a voluntary organization distinct from, but highly supportive of the Commonwealth itself. Founded as far back as 1868, it is committed to improving the lives and prospects of Commonwealth citizens across the world. The RCS boasted the Queen as its patron and numbers among its vice presidents the UK Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, the Commonwealth Secretary General, and all the Commonwealth High Commissioners in London. The RCS, under its director, Michael Lake, recently embarked on an ambitious program aimed at raising the profile and relevance of the modern Commonwealth. The Commonwealth, he said, has been very introspective. It needs to be more extrovert in pursuit of that objective. We have adopted a policy of getting branches of the Commonwealth in non-Commonwealth countries. The idea, he said, was to promote mutually advantageous links with reliable friends from around the world on everything from business to defense. A new branch of the RCS had already opened in Helsinki, Finland's capital, when in 2017 the RCS opened a chapter in Dublin as part of a campaign to help persuade the Irish Republic to rejoin the organization. The most recent development was opening in February of 2018 with the blessing of then President Donald Trump of a U.S. branch in Mississippi, with a view to eventually bringing America into the Commonwealth fold as an associate member. a concept not yet accepted by the Commonwealth, but being promoted by the RCS. Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant was an ally of Trump, was serving as the branch chairman of the Board of Governance. A major driving force behind the RCS's expansion program has been Brexit, the decision of the British people to leave the European Union. And Brexit would free the UK from many of the trade constraints imposed by membership of the EU and allow it to pursue trading opportunities across the globe. Israel has long been regarded by the UK as a prime future trading partner, and a UK-Israel free trade deal was already in negotiation, which actually passed in March of 2023. In the circumstances, Israel would seem an obvious future location for an RCS branch office. It is not generally known that Israel boasts an Israel, Britain, and the Commonwealth Association, known as the IBCA, a body formed as far back as 1953 with the aim of encouraging, developing, and extending social, cultural, and economic relations between Israel and the Commonwealth. The IBCA would seem the appropriate broker to seek a Royal Commonwealth Society connection, leading, as in the U.S., to associate membership. How would this benefit Israel? Although the Commonwealth is not a trading bloc, trade between members is rising strongly. For example, in 2013, Israel introduced a scheme to help India diversify and raise the yield of its fruit and vegetable crops. By March of 2014, 10 centers of excellence were operating throughout India, offering free training sessions for farmers in efficient agricultural techniques using Israeli technology and know-how, including vertical farming, drip irrigation, and soil solarization. A year later, no less than 29 such centers were in operation, and now 25 more are being set up across the continent. One outcome among very many is a made-in-India version of high-quality Israeli oranges, which are about to hit the Indian market, grown from disease-free plants, nurtured through Israeli scientific techniques. An RCS branch office in Israel, followed perhaps by associate membership of the Commonwealth, would give Israel access to dozens of developing countries that would benefit immensely from Israeli expertise in cutting-edge agricultural technologies. Politically, given the spread of Commonwealth countries across the globe, strengthened trading bonds could help develop warmer relations and foster greater understanding between Israel and the rest of the world. So there's actually this group called Israel, Britain, and the Commonwealth Association, the IBCA. It is an Israeli registered Amuta whose principal objectives is to encourage, develop, and extend social, cultural, and economic relations between Israel, Britain, and the Commonwealth. IBCA is dedicated to advocating on behalf of Israel's interests to Britain, the Commonwealth, and the world at large. The Israel, Britain, and Commonwealth Association is a pro-Israel organization based in Israel. It was founded as the Ottoman Society, later changing its name to the current one. According to the website of the organization, it was founded with the encouragement of the British Embassy in order to maintain and develop contacts and relations between Israel and the United Kingdom and the countries of the British Commonwealth. In 1980, IBCA was registered as an Israeli nonprofit, and some of their members are listed there. But they have these meetings, they have these dinners, and some of the famous people have attended, like the President Hertzog and, members of the British Commonwealth. Once again, I find that rather shocking about anyone within the United States attempting to make us associate members in America of the Commonwealth, since our ancestors fought the American Revolution to break free from Britain and British rule. It says the United States once fell under the rule of the British Empire too. Why isn't it part of the Commonwealth? One word can answer that question: war. The United States is one of a small number of countries that went to battle against the monarchy for independence, and as a result calls itself a republic. So we are not a democracy, we are a republic, and there's a big difference. So now you can see there is a lot more going on that could potentially create the automatic acceptance of King Charles III. If they came under his Commonwealth, he would be the king over them, and he would be just kind of like a figurehead. But recent events in townandcountrymagazine.com by Emily Burak was published October 26th of 2023. King Charles met with Palestinian charity leaders at Buckingham Palace. King Charles is continuing to stay updated on the unfolding situation in Israel and Gaza. So this is why I told you that King Charles III could fall right into place to being their anointed one, because he was anointed with the Jerusalem olive oil at his coronation ceremony that gives him power and authority as king. And we know all the stuff about that. He was coronated in the style of the biblical kings of Judah. The king stood by a pillar, and that pillar of Jacob was underneath his coronation chair. They poured the oil over the coronation stone, and the king stood there next to it at his coronation. Edward I had a special chair for Jacob's pillar stone that was placed in the coronation chair after it was stolen from the Scots. And there's a big story, I talked about that whole thing. But this shows that this group is definitely meeting behind the scenes, and they also are having special dinners and meetings that they gather to. The Israel, Britain, and Commonwealth Association is a registered non-for-profit organization. Its income comes from its membership as well as their guests from a wide range of social, cultural, and educational events organized throughout the year. The funds generated have also allowed the IBCA to strengthen the relationship between Israel and Britain and its Commonwealth. In furtherance of this aim, the John Furman Memorial Scholarship Fund was established to give study travel grants to representatives of Israeli industry, arts, medicine, and education. And so they host the Balfour Dinner, which is scheduled this year on November 9th of 2023. It's already sold out, and they have a lot of guests that come to this dinner. It says, "We are delighted to announce the return of our flagship event, the annual Balfour Dinner. The dinner commemorates the Balfour Declaration of November 2nd, 1917, when Britain's Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour wrote to Lord Rothschild committing the British government to creating a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. The big reason why they would see King Charles III as their king. The catalyst for the reborn state of Israel. Its significance is reflected in the continued special relationship between Israel and Britain. This year's dinner, marking the milestone 75th anniversary of the State of Israel, promises to be a celebratory occasion not to be missed. We are honored to have as our guest speaker from Israel the leader of the opposition and former Prime Minister, MK Yair Lapid. Our guest speaker from the United Kingdom will be the Honorable Ed Balls, co-chair of the UK's Holocaust Memorial Foundation and a former Secretary of State in the UK government. Finding out that this group exists, the Israel, Britain, and the Commonwealth Association, don't you think that everything would just fall right into prophetic place so easily with King Charles III as the king? And when they both are able to come to some sort of peace and security deal through becoming members of the Commonwealth, through these organizational attempts, then that just literally would make them exhilarated that they would have a new king on their throne after thousands of years, and they would see him as their Messiah. They would also invite him to be there during the blood covenant with many, with the red heifer that purifies the Jews worldwide from their sins, supposedly. And they sprinkle the blood towards the temple, and it allows the temple to be built. It allows for the sacrificial system to begin, and halfway through the 7-year covenant, he stops the sacrificial system. So this is how it all, I believe, is really going to come together. And I believe that the current events are setting the stage, because there's a lot of talk about maybe even Benjamin Netanyahu losing his position as prime minister due to the fact that these atrocities were allowed through, and that Hamas was able to gain access into Israel. So the reaction time was like 6 to 8 hours or something like that before anything was done by the intelligence agency. And there's several intelligence agencies there in Israel and Tel Aviv. So they should have known, and there's no way they could not have known. I don't believe. They're considered, top intelligence organizations in the world. So maybe all of this was designed so that this would allow for the protests against Netanyahu to stop temporarily, and then they could just progress with changing the judiciary into the Sanhedrin World Supreme Court that they really want. They have stated that their Messiah would be a king, and that this Messiah would be present at the red heifer ceremony. And this is exactly showing you that this is not just a flippant idea in the head, but that they are really considering being under the Commonwealth of King Charles III. And this just sets the stage. And as I told you, I realized that every single one of the emblems, the lion, the bear, the leopard, and the dragon, are all representative of King Charles III and his monarchy as king. So there's nobody else that fits all 4 of those all at once. And I had another video where I spelled that whole thing out, and I was pretty shocked. So he fits all 4 of them in the book of Revelation. They are going to set a king upon the throne again and have a theocracy with, a monarchy. Whether it's a dictatorial monarchy or an absolute monarchy, or whether it's a parliamentary system based upon the British system with him as their king, it would all fall into place. And this organization is ensuring that it's going to come to pass. I just wanted to tell you that it's more solid than any of us ever could know. And they are meeting behind the scenes trying to make this come about. I hope you can see how prophecy is falling into place. And if Netanyahu is kicked out as prime minister, that could set the stage for somebody's going to come in and broker the peace, and the king is the one to do it. And to remove Jordan as controlling the temple. So some people look at, only he who now letteth will let until he's taken out of the way, and then that lawless one will be revealed, the son of perdition. Well, if Jordan is removed out of the way, a lot of people, when you look in the Strong's Concordance at the term, he who now restrains will do so, it can refer to the Holy Spirit, but people have not looked at the other definition, which is that it could be referring to a government that's removed out of the way. If the king of Jordan was removed off the Temple Mount and it allowed for the Jewish temple to be built, and then let's say Mohammed bin Salman is given control over it, or even King Charles III brokers the deal between the two and allows the temple to come about, then that would be removing the king of Jordan, would be he who now restrains would be removed out of the way. Now everybody sees that as the Holy Spirit, but there is another definition of being a governmental body removed. And that would make sense, because that would allow them to build the temple. If the king of Jordan, who's been suppressing and keeping and preventing the Jews from building the temple, if he was moved out of that position and somebody else put in the place that allows the temple to be built, then that sets up for Jesus eventually coming at the end of the 7-year time of Jacob's trouble. And also, it allows for this monarch to be placed upon the throne, an earthly king, and then the true King of Kings is going to have to return and take the throne. So I am pretty certain that this is how it's going to come about. And I just wanted to share my ideas. People get all bent out of shape about the restrainer being the Holy Spirit, but it does have two definitions. And it can be a government body removed, so that whoever allows for the temple to be built would be the false Messiah, the anointed one that Israel accepts. So, would the king of Jordan be moved out of the way? King Charles III moved into position? That's what I think might happen. So, there you have it. More proof that this idea is not just a thought in the head. They're really working this behind the scenes. And I thought you might want to know. So good night for now. I'll see you in my next video.